I'm Vincent Bryant. I work for Deepki. I'm Deepki's CEO and co-founder. And Deepki is a 400-employee SaaS company whose job is to help real estate players transition towards net zero and sustainability thanks to AI and thanks to ESG. Actually, it comes from all these parts simultaneously, with different levels of maturity, obviously, but we can sum things up that way. First thing first is compliance, regulation, and there are more and more regulation. In Europe, you obviously have EU taxonomy, SFDR, CSRD. You have more local regulation in Asia or in the US, such as LL97, for instance. But it's clearly one point because people don't want to supply the market with non-compliant assets. So the asset managers, investment management companies, they tend to improve their assets in order to be compliant. The second point is access to capital. And so on that matter, clearly lenders play a great role. And especially in Europe, you see more and more lenders offering and accommodating clients with new loans, but with more and more constraints, more and more demanding criteria. And you can see some lenders that are no longer willing to give any loan if they don't get access to data and if they don't have commitments from their clients to improve asset from a carbon standpoint. The third point is clearly the attractiveness of the asset. And you see also more and more tenants that are willing to have amazing buildings in CBD, in amazing locations with a lot of services, but also that want to retain their talents, they want to retain their employees, to attract customers, and they want ESG compliant and climate positive building. And to do such a thing, they ask their landlords to offer these amazing buildings. And it's more and more the case, even though obviously it's not all the tenants yet. And the last but not the least is the investors, the LP, that are very happy to offer investment companies money to be invested into assets, but they don't want to lose money. And we see more and more brand discounting happening, especially in Europe. And in addition to the already existing real estate crisis, you don't want to sell an asset half of its price or two-thirds of its price because you forgot to refurbish it from a climate change standpoint. The first thing first, 80% of 2050 global building stock already exists. So most of the efforts we need to do in order to decarbonize the real estate industry come from existing buildings. We recently, a few months ago, ran a survey amongst 250 institutional investors in 6 countries in Europe. And one of the great insights we've got from this survey is that 88% of the investment companies already plan to invest capex into buildings, and they think that 42% of the asset requires immediate or in the very near future refurbishment in order to avoid all the constraints we mentioned. Saying that, it's interesting to see that they declare that the most urgent assets to refurbish are retail first, and it was 30% of them thinking about retail first, then it's industrial assets, and then it's offices. I have 3 good news for you and 3 bad ones. The 3 good news is we already have enough money. The investors, the lenders, they are ready to invest into good assets and good refurbishment. The second good news is we have enough assets, the 42% already mentioned. And the third good news is we have the technology. We have the data, we have software, we have now more and more AI, we also have hardware, we have equipment, devices, and best practices to implement to make it happen. The bad news is, first, we have a shortage in supplying these equipments, especially when they are built in Asia and not in Europe, for instance. Second, we have a shortage of staff, skillful people, workers to refurbish a building. And the last but not the least is we still have a low level of maturity from the market. You know, what's happening right now with decarbonization is very similar to what happened 20 years ago when real estate industry became a financial industry. We started implementing ERP, we started having FP&A teams, auditors looking at reportings every quarter, every year, etc. And we stopped talking about building and started talking about assets. We need to do the same not with dollars and euros, it's already been done, but with CO2. And this is the three things that are required to make it happen. You know, AI is very trendy. We started 10 years ago at Deepki, and from day one we used machine learning algorithm, we use data scientists, big data algorithm, and now we call them artificial intelligence, and it's different versions and different type of algorithms, obviously. But as long as you have a practical use case, I'm talking about boots on the ground use case, if it's a small and useful use case that provides value, you know, data enrichment, time saved, more insights, and it's not too expensive, and it doesn't have a too big impact on the environment, because AI is very not a good thing from an environmental standpoint, then it makes sense. In our case at Deepki, we use a lot of these use cases, already 45, such as thanks to a satellite photo, we are able to tell automatically what is the nature of the roof. Do you have, you know, grass? Do you have technical stuff? Do you have regular tiles, etc.? And it's very useful for us. It's a small use case, but we can do it now completely automatically. Another example is we are connected to 2 million meters in 65 countries. There is no way for human being to look at the screen and try to figure out if there is a water leak or an issue with energy consumption. We do that automatically thanks to what we call interval data, pattern recognition-based algorithms that detect faults and send notification to the right person in charge of the building. So this is an amazing use case you can have, but again, you need to think about practical use case, not too expensive, and look at the environmental impact.